Welcome to Conversations from the Edge of Consciousness. I'm your host, Christine Madera. For me, and possibly for you, the inner world of consciousness has always been much more real and way more fun than the so-called real material world. Growing up, I thought I was alone in this, but I'm not. There are a lot of us, and far too many have no one to talk to who shares this experience. I've been lucky to cultivate a community of friends who love to talk about the energies, ideas, and vibrations that are pushing the edges of our own consciousness, as well as our collective consciousness. In Conversations from the Edge, we share our conversations with you. Welcome to Conversations from the Edge. This is your host, Christine Madera, and I am really happy today to be talking to my friend Michė Meizner, who I met in this really weird sort of way. I was having this crazy hard day one day, and there was something I needed to do in my business, and I just wasn't able to figure out how to get it done. And it was an energetic shift. Like I needed to shift a mindset to be able to do something in my business. I can't remember what it was, but the strangest thought came through my head. And I thought, if I could only bend a spoon, I could do this. And not 10 minutes later in my Facebook feed, there was this offer that came up, learn to bend a spoon. And I thought, no, this is insane. So anyway, I got on that workshop and I learned how to bend a spoon, and Michė was doing the workshop, and she is doing really amazingly fabulous things that are way beyond bending a spoon, although they still involve spoon bending. And so I wanted to have conversations with Michė because she's really doing some amazing consciousness work out there. So Michė, welcome.
Thank you, Christine. I'm so happy to be here. It was such an amazing synchronicity that came up for you like that. And then on my end, on the opposite end, I had just recently done this little promo thing talking about why spoon bending was so cool. And I said something very much like, it's not like I think people go walking around thinking, oh, if only I could bend a spoon today, life would be great. I said, well, maybe I do, but I don't think anybody else does. And then prove me wrong. There you are having that exact experience. So
yes. Synchronicity is amazing.
Yeah, it really is. So,
so why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and about what you're spoon bending and what you're doing now, and then we'll launch into some chatting about reality, because that's always fun.
Yeah. Okay. So spoon bending, I've been teaching that quite a bit for like the last 3 years. And it's my go-to tool to help people really get literally a feel for how much we affect our reality, how much power we have to influence and to direct how things go in our day, in our life, and in the matter that's around us, like literally a spoon. And bending a spoon is such a direct experience that one of the ways that I use that is like, this is what we're doing all the time. This is the law of attraction. This is manifesting. This is, watch what you say, because, your body is listening to you. It's all of this stuff that we normally can't track because there's so many moving parts. There's so many little pieces, and so many distractions.
And it's the alternative, or the other way of creating your reality than the working really hard in the material world way, which is what we're all taught to do. We're all taught you have your goal, you have your objective, you work really hard to get there. And somehow that process of working really hard to get there is going to get you there. But it's only really true for about 8% of the population who are wired to achieve that way. And for the rest of us, 92%, it's not working and we don't know what to do. So we're learning this whole energy stuff. But it's hard, I think, for people to put that, to make the shift from effort in the material world to shape your material world to energy in the world to shape your material world. And that's one thing I really love about the spoon bending.
Right. And it's actually, so many teachers, I think, who share and work with energy and, teach about it, they still brought that whole sort of work ethic into it. So now, even though we're looking at energy, you got to work really hard with the energy. You got to hold the vibration. You got to, contort yourself into a pretzel to make it happen. And yeah, the thing about, using the spoon bending as an example is it's so simple. It's really much more about letting go.
Yes.
And bringing in ease and presence, and bringing awareness. It's not about, the harder you try, the more contracted you get, and the less likely things are to move. And, that's, again, in everything that we do. And again, we don't really see it. We just think, oh, I have to hunker down and work harder. I have to apply myself more. Where the spoon bending is the exact opposite. You need to let go more. In fact, when I'm teaching and I'm, talking about this, you're even better off if you just stop listening to me and just maybe, let the sound of my voice kind of affect things, because it's allowing. It's much more about allowing.
It is. And it's hard. That letting go and the allowing, and I've known this for years and years and years. Like, I intuited it years ago. I've been working on it for years. And of course, that's a oxymoron, to work on allowing. You just can't do it that way.
Right.
But it's the surrender. It is the letting go. It is the getting out of my own way, which is exactly what I needed to do that day when I'm like, if I could only bend a spoon, because I knew it wasn't about the effort of bending a spoon. Because, if you really wanted to bend a spoon, you could get a vise, you could get a hammer, you could bend your spoon. It was about it was about trusting that I could work with reality in a way that was, intentional and ease-filled and moving forward, and not efforting and not trying and not forcing and getting out of the way. And that's still something that it's really a challenge. And because we're wired for that just work harder, apply yourself more, focus your energy a little bit more powerfully, and try. But I'm with you. Like, I learn best when I'm not listening. Right. I actually will if I want to learn something, I will turn it on audio. I will do a whole bunch of other stuff. I listen while I drive. I'll listen 2 or 3 times, and then I'll find the stuff coming out of my mouth. And I'm like, when did I learn that? I'm like, oh yeah, that's where I learned that. So I'm with you on that. It's just, it's hard to apply in your life, because, applying and allowing are kind of work at odds with one another.
Right. And, every time we say it's hard to do, we're making it harder to do. Right. So even in talking about the ease and the allowing, we're even, saying, well, it's really hard to allow. Well, if we think it is, right? And if instead, I like to offer people to just you don't have to believe the opposite. You don't have to convince yourself. You can simply wonder if it could be different, wonder what else is possible, and then let that go instead of, wonder, okay, now I'm going to have my notebook out and my pen, and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to see, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to count, and I'm going to measure. No, it's just, I wonder if something else can be different, and then step into the next moment with the wonder of it, not knowing, not having to answer, with an intention, right? The intention to bend a spoon. Yeah. I recently did a couple of trainings, and on the first one of the 2, for at least 3/4 through the thing where I'm teaching people how to bend a spoon, I could not bend my spoon. And I had to keep letting go and letting go on so many levels. Like, don't get caught up in that and continue to teach, and not go into, oh, what kind of teacher are you? Or, what does this mean? And, and just be like, okay, I'm here in the moment. I have a spoon. It's not bending, and I'm teaching something. And actually what I wound up doing in that circumstance was finally putting that spoon down, because I realized that I couldn't get out of my own way with that. And I picked up another spoon, also one that I could not physically bend just by itself, but for whatever reason, that one didn't feel quite as daunting to me, so I was able to just let go.
All right. And so that brings, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Well, as I continued to talk about it, I bent that spoon. And then once I had done that, I picked up the other spoon, continued to talk and not pay much attention. And eventually I did bend that other spoon. But it wasn't from trying harder. It was from trying less and caring less even about it.
Yeah. But it brought to mind something, and I'm not sure if you were the one that brought this up, but I thought it was a really interesting idea. And I think it's true. And when you're like working with reality, when you're kind of, what do you call that? Co-creating, whatever,
Co-creating.
that actually with a spoon, it can be important to choose the spoon that wants to play with you at that moment,
Yes.
rather than choosing a spoon that you are going to bend, whether it wants to bend or not, because a spoon has its, I mean, matter has consciousness, everything has consciousness. So the spoon has
Hmm.
its consciousness. It may not want to bend, may not want to bend for you. And you have to enter into
Right.
that place of partnership and cooperation, so that you're not, this whole thing, this whole idea that we've had of dominating things that we consider non-sentient, and it's our right to dominate things that are non-sentient. That energy, which underlies so much, actually gets in the way also of bending spoons. Like
Right.
you need to be in that partnership sort of energy, in my view, for it to work well.
Hmm. Right. And in general, we're either the victim,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're at the effect of our surroundings, or we're dominating or trying to dominate. And this is,
Mm-hmm.
you could say it's a middle way, um, where it's an interplay between the two. And in fact, that spoon that I was not able to bend, for that whole section of time, it hadn't occurred to me in the moment to, follow my own teachings. And I could have asked the spoon, hey, would you like to play with me? Would you like to do this? What else can we do? Um, and, seen if maybe something else would have happened. But we can apply that to anything. I mean,
Yes.
I use the example a lot of, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, or
Mm-hmm.
what the word I just coined the other day is woopreneurs, right? Because we're all us woo folks who are in business, but we forget to apply our own,
Yeah.
our own ideas and our own protocols, right, to our own thing. But you could sit down to like write a blog post or write an article, or plan your class or whatever, and if you come at it assuming that it's difficult, like it's always like pulling teeth to get the words to come out right or whatever, you're
Mm-hmm.
basically dooming yourself for it to be difficult,
Yeah.
because the universe and your own self is trying to provide you with your own picture of reality. And if instead,
Yep.
you come at it as in partnership, and how can this be playful? And I wonder how easily this can come up, or I wonder what new ideas might even come to me, and allow that, and not decide in advance what it's going to be like. Another phrase that I like is the idea of life living through you. Life is living itself
Yeah.
through you, right?
Yep.
And
I love
we
that one.
are that life. We are that greater life, that greater self. We're not the victim, and we're not the
Mm-hmm.
one to, try to wrestle it into submission either. We are in companionship and
Yeah.
co-creation.
And that is where we shut life down, and we put our, what we want to do first, which is trying, which is exhausting, which is adrenal fatiguing, which is, it never works anyway, because you don't really get what you want. Even if you get what it seems like you want in the material world, it doesn't bring you that level of satisfaction, because it's disconnected from that deeper sense of who you are, in my view.
Yes.
But I had this really interesting, we were talking about this whole partnership idea, when I have a friend who's really into mushrooms, and for some reason we were talking about mushrooms, blah 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 blah, and I look out the window and there's this giant mushroom it was a black inking polyspore, what I found out later, but it looked like this giant cauliflower, and it was growing outside my window. And I asked her, because mushrooms, they grow, they die very quickly then once they've released their spores. And I asked her if she wanted it, because I said, I sent her a picture. She's like, that's so interesting. She wasn't sure what it was, wasn't sure if it was poisonous and all this stuff, but she was having a mushroom club meeting coming up. So I said, well, I'll bring you the mushrooms. So the next morning when I was going to go see her, I went out, and there was a little version of the mushroom, and then there was this big giant mushroom. I mean, it had gotten to the size larger than a basketball. In fact,
Wow.
significantly larger than a basketball. And like overnight, it was crazy. So the little mushroom, of course, I picked it up, I put it in a bag, And that was no big deal. You know, it was a light mushroom. I put it in the bag. The other mushroom, one, it was so anchored in and it was so heavy. It came out as 9 pounds, and I'm like squatting on the side of a hill to get it, and it wouldn't come up. And I was like, So I remembered that people who are really in tune with plants, like they can pick stinging nettles without the stinging, because they will talk to the plant. And then we'll say,
Oh, wow.
thank you for your medicine. This is what I'd like to use you for. Thank you that we're coming into a relationship of non-harming where you can express yourself through this medicine. And, I'm not coming at you to attack you. I'm coming at you to work with you. And they can pick things without being stung. And the same thing with poison ivy. Like you can talk to the poison ivy and pick it without getting infected. And so I just said to this mushroom, I said, my friend would really like you. And she would really appreciate you, and she would like to show you to her mushroom group. Would you be willing to come with me? And I will give you to my friend. So then I just lifted the mushroom right out of the ground, and I had to put it in this giant,
Wow.
I had to put it in a garbage bag. It was that big. It wouldn't even fit in like a regular shopping bag. But it was so interesting that like once I spoke to the mushroom, then the mushroom was like, yeah, I'm all there, I'll come with you.
That's amazing. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so I remember that when I'm trying, I shouldn't say trying, there's not many words, or English is such a literal language. When I'm moving into something where I feel challenged, I will remember back to this and see how I can partner with what's happening, whether it's partnering with an idea that wants to come through a blog post, or partnering with, something, and inviting that forward and inviting that participation, rather than trying to come at it from this place where, well, I'm going to do this. And I'm just, these are all non-sentient beings. So I'm just going to assert my domination and will over them and make them do what I want.
Right.
So,
Well, and also to remember that pause that you had, where you were struggling, and then you had this memory of how to not struggle, and then it worked.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yeah. So that was really cool. And I did see something, again, it was on mushrooms. I saw a mushroom movie yesterday, and I knew this, and I just hadn't had the words to talk about it from this perspective, but it was talking about how, the survival of the fittest, which was the whole kind of a misrepresentation of what Darwin had said. It was a sort of a nice, concise phrase that fit into, our love of domination. But that nature actually operates from a place, and particularly mushrooms, but mushrooms operate like they're huge all over the world under the ground. We don't even know that they're there, but that nature operates and thrives when it is, because it operates in interconnection and generosity. And that's really like, if you can bring, and I'm working on this more and more, to bring those two things, the interconnection and the spirit of generosity, to all that I do, so that I'm working in harmony with not just like nature and the natural world, but with the whole energy beneath nature, that whole energy beneath all of everything that we can use to create whatever it is that we want.
Right. Yeah, that makes me think of, the idea of just approaching life as I'm living in a benevolent universe. Right? I think it was Einstein who said, that you sort of need to decide whether like the universe is, for you or against you.
Yeah.
Not like it's, out to sort of shake my hand and personally, boost me,
Right.
any different than others, but just that the motivation of life, of energy, is around interconnection and generosity and growth. It's not about domination and separation and all of that.
Yeah, and I even I've added this to that Einstein quote for my own purposes, because it's not in the actual quote, but that not just whether I'm living in a friendly universe or not, but that I'm participating in a friendly universe, that what I do matters in that universe. Yes. And that helps me soften into the idea of connection, because it's so easy to stay just in that orientation of being separate and interacting with the universe versus being a participant in the universe. And for me, energetically, that was a big distinction that was helpful.
Right. That's great.
Ooh.
Yeah. So thinking back to your mushroom example, that for me, that's the spoon bending example,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I can't, go out into the woods with people, and I don't know if I'm a mushroom communicator or not, how that would work, but I can teach people how to do something similar, bending a spoon, and then advise and sort of guide and coach people to extrapolate from there. And how do you keep bringing that into your life, that same ease, that same kind of, let's do this together. Let's hold a different energy together. So that's great. And it's not that that's the only place. It's just that it's a really convenient vehicle for me to teach people. And it's, inexpensive and readily available to get a spoon.
And it's very profound. Like when you bend a spoon, it's so tactile. It's not like doing something energetically that stays energetic. It's something, that's why I think it's so wonderful, because it's doing something in the energetic field that has a immediate and significant impact on a material object that you can actually look back on and say, wow, I did that.
Right. Right. Yeah. And going to the idea of the ease of it also, that, we can have this kind of profound effect. We do always have this effect on the world around us, or the world that we are part of, and don't notice it, and then we think, if in order to sort of intentionally control it, you need to be a yogi or have meditated in a cave for 3 years, or, be on a cleansing fast for 59 days, or,
Oh
whatever
God.
it is. And those things will certainly change your energy, but just staying present and still for a moment, and being aware and intending something is enough to have a conscious, intentional effect on yourself, on your interactions, and literally on the matter around you.
Yeah.
And then take that in. Go ahead.
No, finish up.
Well, take that into engaging with more sentient beings, like if both you and I are coming into, an experience with that sort of intention and openness, and magic can totally happen. You can shift all sorts of things together.
Yes. Yeah. And I just wanted to jump in when you were talking about the, 59-day fast, which sounds like kind of a version of hell to me. But the whole idea, we've had this underlying thought in the woo-woo community that, I just need to, if I raise my energy enough, that, something will happen. And there's truth to that the faster your energy field, the more that you raise it, the more that you are in a state of clarity to be able to do things and change your body, change your life, that kind of stuff. But what's kind of just rising now that I think is so connected with something like spoon bending is that we also need to take responsibility for our own intentions and be able to shift into a vibration that matches that intention, and not just a general high vibration. And that can actually feel more daunting. Like it can, not easy, I shouldn't say easy, but it is getting into a non-specific high vibration can be easier than having a specific intention that operates in the physical world, to me, because you're not using that high vibration to interact with the physical world. You're actually separating from the physical world. And, that's not, once you've been meditating for a while or you're oriented that way, that's not that hard to do. But bringing that level of energy back into the world to impact your life and the world, like that is the next level. That's where the big juicy stuff is right now.
Right. And actually, as far as meditation, I mean, personally, I studied Tibetan Buddhism for about 8 or 9 years with some local lamas. And some of what's different from a lot of the other meditation techniques that people might generally know is that, for one thing, you meditate in some of the modalities with your eyes open. And the idea is not to disconnect and, leave everything that's around you. It's about training your mind to stay put where you choose to put it. and also, to be aware to allow feelings and thoughts and emotions to arise and dissipate. But also, we don't have, most of us, very good control, if any control, over our minds and where they go and what they do. And so, that's also why it is more challenging to hold your focus on a particular intention than to just raise your vibe in general, because you can go anywhere that your mind goes, while you're trying to have this heightened vibration. But to keep it focused, you need to have a little more control over your mind. And so I actually recommend people practice meditation, but with the idea of cultivating a connection and cultivating their own ability to set their mind where they want it and let it stay there.
Okay, so we are going to have a whole other conversation about that, because I love talking about that kind of stuff. So let's move on. Let's do that, another conversation about that. But yeah. I know that you've got a interesting way for people to begin to experience their own energy. So why don't you run us through that? And then, because we could go on for another half an hour for the other stuff.
Easily. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Right. So, I want to invite everybody to watch any of my multiple spoon bending webinars, and actually learn to bend a spoon and have that experience in your hands. For now, just as a real quick thing, a little bit less tangible, but still using your hands, I want to invite people to just do this little exercise with me and see if you can feel the energy between your hands. And so the first thing is to just rub your hands together, like you're warming them up, and you are kind of getting the energy flowing and the blood flowing. And then hold your hands about shoulder width apart, palms facing each other. And then begin to bring them in toward each other. And just notice, and, Christine, you can maybe be, our audience for the moment and let me know.
I'm doing that. Actually, my hands just want to keep getting bigger and bigger. They're not wanting to come together. Oh, there we go. Okay. They had to be further out for them to want to come together at all. I just full disclosure, I play this game with myself because I think I like it. It just feels good. Like I'll be sitting somewhere and it's kind of boring in a meeting or, whatever. And I'll just start playing hand energy. And so when you first start this, I remember when I first started this, that sometimes my hands had to be pretty close together for me to be able to feel the energy. So don't think it has to be one thing or another. But okay, go ahead. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, so it could be anywhere. And so, for me and for a lot of the people I've taught, there's a point where something feels almost a little spongy between your hands, or maybe a little buzzy or tingly, but you at some point, as you bring your hands in toward each other, chances are you're going to have some experience of the energy between your hands. I mean, that's what you're feeling, what's going on there. And then when you find that place where you're having whatever your sensation, sometimes it's like if you turn two magnets, the wrong way, and there's that little bit of like repelling energy so I'll bring my hands in, and it feels like they don't want to come in any further, that there's some bouncy, pushy kind of energy between my hands. And then you can, using your intention, grow that ball of energy and see how far out you can bring your hands apart from each other and still feel that kind of tingly or pressure, spongy feeling. And so what you're doing right there is just focusing. I mean, there's energy around us all the time. We are energy. It's all, it looks like we're all separate, but we're just all a sea of energy. But we're intentionally, it's like we're scooping up some energy specifically to play with in this situation. And that's a lot of times, ultimately what people who are doing energetic healing, that's a kind of energy. It's that feeling, it's that sensation that they're sort of gathering, whether with their hands or with their minds or hearts, and then sending to someone else or to a part of your body or whatever. And so you can play with that yourself too, as you become a little more familiar with what that energy feels like for you. You can imagine it, sort of that ball of energy in one hand, and you can maybe place it over, part of your body that hurts or someone else, and just send that intention for that to be a loving, healing energy. So just a really simple little introduction to feeling energy and the idea that we are energy and that we're surrounded by energy.
A couple of other ways I've used this as well, because I do this, I think it's fun, is sometimes if you've got something that's really stuck, like an emotion or a thought or something in your life that's stuck, and once you're able to feel the energy, you can imagine that that's the energy, and you begin to like pull it like taffy and
Nice.
just pull it. And then you can, with the relaxed ease and intention. So it's not a directed intention, but just with the awareness, the intention that you're just allowing it, allowing yourself to sort of stretch your limits with that, to come outside of whatever that block is or that stuckness is. And like taffy, where it becomes unstuck, and then we push it together again, and then we pull it in the other direction. And that can help to stretch us beyond what that limitation is. And then back when I first learned this, we would throw energy balls at each other. And so you could do this like in, and you don't throw in bad energy balls, but you have a nice energy ball. And if there's somebody that's having a bad day or something, you just kind of throw the energy ball into them and, watch their expression as it hits. And sometimes it can give them that little like, oh, wow, there's something new and exciting. And sometimes it just startles them. You can do it to your dog or cat too. They really like it. They'll look at you like, yeah, more of that, please. Thank you very much. Like they get it. So, all right. Well, thank you. So why don't you tell people how they can connect with you, like how they can find your videos and connect with you in another way if they would like to.
Right. Sure. And I will make sure that you have the links that you can post for people and make it easier, but on Facebook, I have a page called Spoonbenders Cafe. And I also have a group called Spoonbenders Cafe. And that's a place where, I post videos and do trainings, and we have discussions about these sort of things. And I invite other healers and teachers and coaches and woo-woo sorts of individuals to share what they know, share their teachings and their protocols. So it's a great place to interact with me more, and also to have some community, because it's good to be together with people as we explore this stuff. So you can find me at Spoonbenders Cafe on Facebook. And I do have a YouTube channel. I'm going to have to give you the link to that. And I've got a playlist there of a bunch of different spoon bending trainings. I also lead what I call heart expanding, vibe uplifting guided meditations, where I take people into just an expanded sense and awareness, and also some cultivating of that focus, that one pointedness of attention.
Cool.
And
all right.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I was going to say the links will be on conversationsfromtheedge.net under Michė's information. So whatever is you've got, we'll have links to those kinds of things. And so if you can't remember, then we'll have it there. And if there's anything that we've forgotten, we'll put them there too.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to have, and there was something that didn't even come up at all that I want to talk with you about. So we will have lots of stuff to talk about in our ongoing conversations. But thank you so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely. And, if anybody has any questions about any of what I've said or we've said, they can, I'm sure, ask questions, on the post, and they can get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to talk about any of this.
Terrific. This is your host, Christine Meizner. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation from the edge of consciousness. You can find all our conversations at conversationsfromtheedge.net. You'll also find links to schedule a private conversation with me or any of my friends, as well as tools to help you expand your own consciousness and explore what's possible for you outside the boundaries of your current perceptions. Feel free to use this podcast to start your own conversation by sharing it with friends, on social media, in your blog, or even in your own podcast. And as always, live the adventure of pushing your own edge. It's the most amazing adventure there is.